watching Good for the Game TV. It's Monday night. It's time for Use It or Lose It, show where we are really building up to the Rugby World Cup, having a look at some of the key issues and, of course, things like BOK squad selection. Well, on tonight's show, we are going to look at the remaining positions that are sort of up for grabs as far as the BOK team goes. I mean, we're getting very close now to that final squad of 31. We'll talk about some of those, including, of course, the headline act, Nkosi, who was absolutely incredible on the weekend with his try scoring. And he's really pushing hard for a place in the starting lineup. We'll also have a look at a bit of a temperature check on the Southern Hemisphere teams, the Rugby Championship teams, as far as the Rugby World Cup goes. So looking forward to chatting about that. I should have 3 guests on the studio. At the moment, I see I've just got one in right now. The yellow cap is on his way in, and Tyler is going to be a little bit late, although I see him popping in as we speak. But let me welcome Couch Critic. Couch, good to have you on the show.
How's it, Brent, man? Thanks. Nice being here as always, and obviously always great having a chat about rugby. And yeah, as you said, we've pretty much got a very clear idea now at finally at long last what Rassie is doing. How's it, Tyler?
Tyler, welcome to the show. Good to have you back.
Sorry for being late.
No problem. It's excellent. It was,
awesome. It's nice to be on the show.
About 2 minutes ago, I thought I was going to be all alone. But good to have you on. We're going to be joined by the yellow cap now in a few minutes. He's coming on as well. So, we'll look out for him. But, Tyler, we're just saying plenty to talk about on tonight's show, including, of course, we'll get on to BOK selection issues. But just a quick word on the actual test match that took place last weekend. I was at Boktown with my son, really hoping for a spectacle of rugby. It was anything but. It was really one of those tests where you did get the feeling that neither team really wanted to be there, or obviously realized that it was an out of competition thing at the end of the day. A bit of a disappointing spectacle, that one.
Yeah, it seemed like both teams agreed to play their second options, so that also probably took the quality of the game down. So both the South Africans and the Argentinians were trying a few combinations, and obviously in those sort of matches when you're sort of doing a mishmash team, that's the sort of rugby that you're going to get. Not too much for Rassie to learn on. As we're going to discuss later, there were a few standout performances like Nkosi, who really took his opportunity and I think maybe has even played himself into a starting jersey. But I think from both sides, I think Argentina should be very disappointed about not getting the match. There was a bit of a controversial call for that disallowed try. But Argentina definitely can sort of travel back from South Africa thinking that they actually could have got a good win over the Springboks there, even though it's both second teams playing.
Yes, they certainly would have taken quite a lot from that. Just before we start the show, I just want to bring up a Twitter poll I put on today, which similar to last week where we spoke about Bongi and Marks. And let's see, I don't know if you guys can see that there, but essentially with Nkosi, should he start? And if he should start, where should he start? And that's quite a 76 votes we've had. I think the poll's just about finished. We got 45% saying you've got to find a place for him in that number 14 jersey. 33% reckon you can start him on the left wing. 1%, which I must tell you, I think is me, said play him in the 15 jersey. And then there was still 1 in every 5 people do believe that he hasn't quite done enough to force his way into the starting lineup yet, and reckon he should go on the bench. So maybe let's start with that one, Couch, and I'll start with you. This is obviously an interesting one because, I know, for example, Judge Rugby, who normally joins us on the show, he's a big Mapimbi fan, and at the end of the day, though, Nkosi really put up his hand big time, and it's hard to make a case for him not being in the starting 15.
Geez, Brent, I don't think it's even, just like one performance that Nkosi's put in. He's put in a few. That first game against Oz as well, he was superb. He was the standout performer, and I've been a fan of him for a long time. Obviously, he's a great asset for the Sharks, and I just feel he's got like a little bit more of a killer instinct than Nkosi. Nkosi's, he's a bloodhound for the try line, and he knows how to get there. But Nkosi is just, to me, a little bit more of a complete player. He brings the whole package. Physically, I like him. You might think he's small and people see him of stature, but he's a solid smaller oak. He doesn't get stopped. And I mean that brilliant score there this weekend. Where he passed 2 oaks where you thought he was well covered, and he span out and he used his upper body strength. And I'm a huge fan. And obviously, I understand completely where Judge is coming from. And this close in, you don't really want to wonder about a guy in a new position, if you can call it that. And I know you're just saying, wing is wing, but there are different aspects that you have to grasp about playing on it. And, we've got to look at things like, of which foot does he step. And then Nkosi, I know he's got a lovely step of his right. So possibly that's why the right wing suits him a little bit more. And he's probably learned to carry the ball in the right. And then lastly, you also get the defensive setup where it's probably something different playing from the one wing to the other. But, I just feel you have to have him on the park. And Rassi's got to go there and talk to Jacques Nienaber and talk to the lads and say, listen, who's going to be better suited to 11 between Colby and Nkosi and make that call and get him in there, get that jab game as some game time, get a few of the, the smaller games under the belt and have the two of them on the park. Because I just feel that they both dynamite. I don't think you're giving anything up in terms of defense. I think Nkosi's a better defender than Mapimpi. I think he's better on the high ball than Mapimpi. So, I just feel there's no lose situation there. And Nkosi is, he's that X factor. But as I said, without almost that little risky scenario where he's a liability in another form, I think he's superb. His work rate is enormous, and he plays this with so much heart. So, if him and Colby, your two wingers, I think you can't go wrong, eh?
Excellent. Well, I'm pleased to say our final guest has arrived. He raced back from work to make the show. And then, of course, as luck would have it, my email didn't go through to him. And it's hi to Jacques from theyellowcap.com. Jacques, good to have you on the show.
Thanks, Brent, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. One question I've got to ask you. I see you, obviously, you're very active on Twitter. And your name, the Yellow Cap, are you linked to Super Brew at all? Or was that just a name you came up with?
No, so the name is derived from the Yellow Cap from Super Brew. They're well aware of it. But no, I'm not affiliated to them at all, apart from having a club and all those fancy things that they normally have. But I'm actually scaling down on my Super Brew days a bit. There's more. It's taking over life the way they're going at the rate they're going.
Yeah, there's so many pools that you can play there. And we were just actually getting into the show now. Just to let everyone know, what I'm going to do is I'll hang around for the first few minutes, and I'm going to pop out. I want to try a few experiments in the background of that here. So Couch Critic will be taking over the show and chatting to you guys about it, and then I'll pop back in at some point. I'm also testing my sound. Those who watched last week and our regular Thursday night show will know that for some reason after 15, 20 minutes, I've been battling with my sound and that. So I've got a few experiments I want to run. So Couch will be taking over the show. But Jacques, let's just stay with you now. We started talking about Nkosi on the wing, the great game he had, and Couch mentioning as well, and he's quite right. It wasn't a once-off. I mean, the guy's, he's played some excellent rugby. He's a brilliant finisher. I was actually watching, they were showing on SuperSport now. I was watching with my son, I think it was last year's end-of-year tour. And, even some of his finishing there, and that was just superb. So he's knocking hard for a finishing position, for a starting position. Do you see him fitting into the starting lineup, or is he going to be playing off the bench?
Well, from the inside info that I do have, and I do have quite a bit, is that he's actually our starting 14. So I know it's been a bit confusing with him not starting against the All Blacks and stuff, which has also confused me quite a bit because if my calculations are right, I think he hasn't even played against the All Blacks. I can't remember clearly now, but I saw today 8 games, 7 tries. I mean, if he's not starting, then yeah, good question why. I mean, then I think between the 4 of us, then yeah, I don't know what we're doing on the show then, but I'm sure he's going to be starting. And from, like I said, from the inside info that I do have, my understanding is that he will be the number 114 for us. And that's my understanding, and that's what I'm sticking with as well. I think what happened in the Rugby Championship was obviously, as Rassi said, he was testing stuff, and obviously the All Black game, he went with the tried and tested that worked for him last year. So I think that's why he went with Colby at 14.
Excellent. Well, Bulky02 just making the comment there. He did start at 11 at the Sharks. Question is, within Rusty's system, how big of an adjustment to switch him back for Rugby World Cup? And let me go straight with that question onto Tyler. Tyler, what are your thoughts on that? 11 or 14? Does he start at all? Tyler, sorry, your mic is muted and I can't unmute it. There we go. Go for it.
The first thing I want to say is that it's been very unfortunate that none of our back 3 options have all been fit at the same time. Like, our sort of top 4-5 backline options. So at the start of last year, Colby wasn't selected yet, and Yankin and Nkosi played amazingly well against England. Then once the Rugby Championship started, Nkosi was injured. Then at the end of the year, they were trying to fit all 4 in, and then now at the start of this year, Yankee is injured. So it makes it very difficult to almost measure performance between all 4 and 5, well, 5 of our options. And yes, now I don't think Mapimpi, like I know a lot of people on social media weren't too happy about his performance. I personally don't think he did too badly, but I do think, Nkosi just has that something special in terms of finishing. Like as we saw on the weekend, he's amazing finisher. He's really great under the high ball as well. He really impressed me with that against Australia, because if I'm not mistaken, he was marking Reece Hodge, and Reece Hodge is just one of those like Aussie rules type of like people that can get the ball out of anything. So, if you can match up against him, you'll be pretty good against anyone else. And look, if Jacques saying he's starting at 14, I'm assuming Colby's starting at 11 there. I'm fine with that. I think just as long as both wingers are able to play in Rassi's defense system, they know how to rush up on the 13, they are there for the up and unders, they're catching them, and when they get the ball, they can do magic. Look, Colby and Nkosi will be our sort of the highest amount of like just magic that you can put on the wings. So we have to find a way to put them both in there. And at least Nkosi has played a little bit of 11, like it was mentioned. And I think he if it's him or if it's Colby, whatever the situation is, I think both of them can make that adjustment. If I'm not mistaken, I think Colby is left-footed. So I think playing 11 won't be too much of an issue. I might be wrong there.
Well, let's go to Jacques there, because Jacques, I saw you nodding your head there. What's the story that you think Colby at 11 then?
Yeah, I'm actually 100% with Tola there. I actually just had a chat before I got here with my in-laws, my father-in-law, and I was telling him that, for me, I would go with Colby at 11 and Nkosi at 14. And I think it's fair to say Colby is probably the most versatile player we've got in that whole team. I don't know. I'm assuming you guys have seen him play 8th man for what's his team that he plays for in France. But I know that was just like, scary stunts they tried and stuff, which worked. Not that I'm saying Rassi's going to go that route at all, but it's just to show you the versatility of this man is unbelievable. So to put him on the left wing is going to be like just another, like the players say, as long as they can play, they're happy to play. So I think with Colby, it's a matter of, it doesn't matter where you put him. We saw him now play 10 minutes scrum off, and geez, Nick was in his element when, seeing that. And Colby overproved himself in that position. Not that, so at one stage, I think there was even rumors of only taking 2 number 9s to the World Cup, seeing as, Colby could easily be a number 9. But yeah, I'm with Tala 100% there. That would be my starting wings. And the only reason is, and I agree with Tala, that Mapimpi wasn't bad, but his defense is asking questions.
Right, so you prefer Nkosi's defense and Colby's defense. And Couch, let me go to you now, because I spoke to you before we brought Jacques on. Knowing what he's saying with a bit of inside info there, that Nkosi is our starting 14. Would you agree then, Colby onto the left wing?
Yeah, definitely, Brent. I think the one thing that I also wanted to say is, Colby, I think 12 months ago was seen as the bench, the versatile bench option that Jacques talking about in any case, So he should have been ready to be playing 11 in any case. He should at least be up to speed to try and, slot into that kind of role. So it's not like it's entirely, again, defense. I think, rushing, as Tala said, onto the 13 and that kind of thing, that's pretty much the same. If it's left wing or right wing, the system doesn't differ. And again, Colby is so versatile and so skilled that he steps equally well off both feet in any case. So that's also not an issue. So yes, and I believe he did play a lot of left wing at Toulouse. So it's I'm pretty sure that he'll then be the left wing. And as I said again, between him and Mapimpi, I'm definitely not putting anything against Mapimpi. I think people are a little bit harsh on him on his defense because of the system. We were harsh on Jante as well for his defensive efforts, but it does make you look a little bit bad when you don't make that hit on the 13 and it goes out to the wing and all of a sudden he's scampering down, making 20 meters around you, and then everyone's pointing at where was the winger. But I mean, that is just the way our system works, and it looks a lot worse than it is because our cover shifts over. So it's not a one-man situation. You know, it is a system thing. So there is some mitigating circumstances there, but I just think that, you know, all in all, as I said again, Colby and Nkosi, they just have a little bit more skill to me, and it's not like there's a downside in terms of the defense or high ball or something where Mapimpi edges them. I mean, quality rugby player. I'm happy to have him in the squad. He's done a great job. He's shown good work ethic, hunger for tries. I mean, we're in a good position, and I mean, it's great that we're talking about this and not a case of saying, listen, this Oak is rubbish, he shouldn't be in the squad, and this Oak is. It's more a case of us arguing about, listen, isn't this guy a little bit better and should be starting ahead of this guy? And that just shows, you know, how far we've come. So that's fantastic.
And Couch, let's bring you in now because I'm gonna step out in just a second. Take us through and discuss with the lads the other positions, perhaps key positions in the Springboks, which haven't quite been decided yet. I know we did focus quite a lot last week on Bongi and Marks. It'll be interesting perhaps to get Jacques' opinion. He might have some solid info there as to who's going to be starting. So I'll just excuse myself for now and hand you over to Couch Critic, and I'll be listening to the show and commenting in the comments, and I'll pop back towards the end. Thanks, Couch. Thanks, guys. We'll chat later.
Cheers, Brent. Listen, I don't know if you guys have all seen. I was actually surprised that he trimmed the squad so quickly. I thought they were going to have a few days in bloom as the wider 37, and then I see he's gone to 32. So the big, I think the cat's pretty much out the bag. It's been quite surprising there. Esterhuizen has gotten the chop. He's been released to Currie Cup duty. So I think we can pretty much assume that he was on the chopping block, unless he's saying that a Frans Steyn can't go to a Currie Cup team, so it doesn't matter. But Esterhuizen can, so let's release him. But I think we can go from the point of view that the guys who have been released on part of that final system. So pretty much there, I think we all kind of saw this coming with the Esterhuizen getting the chop ahead of Frans Steyn. I don't know if you guys maybe want to start with that. You surprised or pretty much saw that coming? I think that's the only little bit of a shock in the back line. Thala, maybe lead us off there.
So I haven't actually had a chance to see the 32. I was still on the 36. So I had all these points about, I'm worried about what Rassi's going to do. Is he going to bring Esterhuizen and Steyn? Is he maybe worried about Steyn playing 80 minutes? And it's still a bit of a concern. I mean, although Steyn looks like he's going to be the second team's 12, he hasn't played a full game. So it's a little bit of a concern to see, okay, is he going to be able to sort of last the distance and give the Islander a bit of a rest? But so I was worried that he would bring 5 centers, and I thought that would be just overkill. So I think that's the right decision to drop Esterhuizen. And if I'm assuming Galant is still in the squad then? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think then that's more or less how I would have the squad as well. I think we still have enough versatility. Frans Steyn obviously can fill in multiple positions. Galant can play a bit of wing if needed. Colby can play a bit of fullback. So I think we're well covered there. I would love personally to see Frans Steyn play the Japanese game, and just so that we can be satisfied that he can play these 60 minutes. Look, when he was turning around to chase that Argentinian center, or I think it was a forward even, it looked very, very bad. And I'm just worried if he's maybe an option at fullback and it's one-on-one with him. I think that prop from, I don't know if you guys saw that try from the Paul Roos Gray game with a Gray prop chase down the winger. I think that prop could give Frans Steyn a run for his money.
Yes, Thala, just on that one, basically the cut there is just that is Leitz removed. So obviously there it was basically Galant won the battle against Dylan Leitz, and I think as much as I touted it and Judge was trying to support me, and I think you were pretty much coming around as well at the end there, Thala. But unfortunately, Rassie was kind of always had this feeling that that Galant was his fullback. He was unfortunate with injury and he missed out on last year's setup, but I think he was always, the the heir apparent to Willie. So I don't think we should be too surprised by that. As you said, there is versatility for Warwick if needed, but I mean, I think he's pretty much a specialist like 15 replacement for Willie, and you've got enough cover as you said, with a guy like France and Cheslin. But I also heard something today on Twitter, which was quite interesting, and that is, is France really a realistic 15 cover? His state currently, how long ago has he played there? And defensively, as you've mentioned, I mean, I don't think he's got that pace to really move around the park to cover 15. If you're two guys in the backfield, that's quite a lot of space to cover, and especially at his pace. So that is a little bit, I think, maybe as a concern. And as you said, I would have liked to have seen him either start this weekend at inside, and then maybe start or play 40 at fly or 40 at fullback, just to give him another 40 minutes in one of those positions that he might have to slot into. Instead of, at this stage, if you look at that squad, he's a specialist 12 who's basically been picked there. So that's a little bit strange. And then obviously we know we've gone for the 3 scrum halves now. Jock, anything to add there on the back line, guys?
Well, I mean, so the squad's down to 32. So there's one guy sitting there wondering whether he's coming or going, and who is that guy? That's actually the only thing I'm interested at the moment. If I look at the squad and going through the different positions, I'm hearing what you guys are saying, but I went this evening. I went as far as saying my money's on Galant being the guy getting the job. So because the reason for that, it's just my reason for that is, I know the talent he is and what his abilities are, but we haven't seen it in almost 2 years at Springbok level. Also, I don't know what it is, but it almost kind of feels like he doesn't get to his foot. We haven't seen Galant's potential that we've seen in Currie Cup and Super Rugby at Springbok level yet. And that's why my personal opinion is, if I look at the squad, based on a lot of things, like, you've got a Frans Steyn that can play multiple positions. You've got a Colby that can play multiple positions. They both touch the fullback, tick the fullback box. The only guy that stands out that's not going to make it for me, unless it's in the loose forwards, is Galant. From a back's point of view, he looks like the guy that's going next to make up the 31. Otherwise, like I just said, it's going to be one of the loose forwards, which I'm not convinced about. I think the loose forwards that are there now are the guys that are going to be there. I don't know if I miscounted one, but I think I counted 6 loose forwards. That's if you move, I think, Francois Lowe to cover 8 with Dwayne, because I'm assuming that's going to be what's going to happen. And Francois Lowe is going to have to cover 8 now that Marcel is gone.
Yeah, I think if we go onto the forwards, that's pretty much what I saw as well. And unless he, goes for something strange in the back line by making us look one way and then taking one of the scrum halves out by surprise, or as you said, going for a Warwick Galant, there's not a lot of movability. And then if you look at the forwards, and then just for Thala as well, he's pretty much gone for the set. The Koch is the fifth prop there. Fiukas, the 4 locks, and then the 6 guys. Loose chair wise, obviously, geez, what a shocker for Marcel Coetzee. I mean, that's like, you can't get worse luck than that. And from all the talk, and even after the game, you kind of get the feeling that Jassie was trying to keep him involved. So it looks like he might actually have been pretty much well in the mix there. So it's really it's devastating for him. So he's the one who loses out. To me, a little bit of a surprise, and I'm thinking he's the guy on the chopping block personally. I think it's between him and it's between Elstad and Kwagga for me. I think he's spreading his bets a little bit too much. I feel Kwagga can cover 6 and 8. Elstad can now cover 6 and 7. Dwayne is obviously there's your starting 8. Sia can go over from 6 to 7. So I think he's got quite a lot of options there, and the only thing that maybe might see him go for one of the backs is that it's kind of that Rassie pet project. He is a loose forward by heart, and maybe he just feels that it's close to home. He's going to keep that one extra loose forward. But again, you've got a Mostert that can move to 7 in a normal game. If the things hit the fan there. So to me, that's a little bit. I'd chop one of the loose forwards. I think I always say you shouldn't keep the other guys just because you can't decide who you want to cut. And to me, he's keeping the extra loose forward because he just isn't making up his mind between a Kwagga and a Elstad. And that to me would be a mistake from as Jacques maybe alluded to, dropping a specialist backup fullback, keep an extra loose forward who can do a few different things. To me, that's a little bit of the wrong way to go. Chalk, I don't know what do you feel about the forwards? Happy with the prop selected? Maybe an issue with Malherbe or someone? Happy with the 5? Obviously, no issues with the hookers and anything else in the forwards.
Do I have to comment about Malherbe? Anyway, I'll skip Malherbe for now. I looked at the props today. I see there's 5 of them, of which Trevor can switch to tight head or loose head. The rest of them are pretty much specialists in specific positions. So I think that's why he's gone with that kind of split. I know there was a rumor at one stage that he might take 6 props, but clearly that's been quashed now that all the props have been sent packing, and there's only 5 of them left. The hookers, I'm pretty happy with what he's taking. I mean, Bongi's proven himself. To me, Malcolm's only flaw is his line-out throws, and I mean, Skulk Brits, he just brings I don't know, he brings something to the team, even if it's that Bobby Skinstad 2007 role, but I think he deserves to be there. And I mean, he's actually, out of the 3, he's probably the most accurate when it comes to the line-out throws based on Super Rugby this year. But yeah, that's Super Rugby. We're talking international rugby, so things change a little bit. So I think between the 3 of them, I don't think we can do better at this stage of the game. So yeah, I mean, I'm hearing also what you're saying about the loose forwards, and I think you might be right there. If it comes to someone being chopped from, in looking at the front 8, then it's going to be in that department. Like I said, in the backs, I can only see Galant. That's the only one, but I could be horribly wrong. I mean, we don't know really what's going on in Rassi's head. Anything could happen. Just an interesting thought. As we all know, as much as Rassi, is the coach and everything, there's still some selectors in the background. And I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. And I was talking to my father-in-law earlier tonight, and I just said the biggest surprise won't be coming from Rassi's side. It could only come if we have a typical South African sport surprise package from one of the selectors that just, and we know they can be demanding. And hopefully, I honestly hope that Rassi has got the full backing, which it does look like at the moment, if you look at what's happened the last year and a bit, from the selectors. And I just hope it remains that way, because at the moment, he seems to be everything he touches turns to gold, as the saying would go. I think 90% of the country is happy with the squad.
I think, Jock, I don't think we have to be concerned of that. I think Rassi's pretty much got everyone on the same page. So I'm pretty happy that he's ticked the right boxes for everyone, and I think that's exactly the nice thing. I don't think there's any issue or any comments from any fraternity at the moment. I think everyone is pretty much on board that this is the best squad. To me, there's no argument about form or anyone working their way into this team who haven't deserved it. So I'm pretty happy that this strength-wise the best 32 you could possibly select. Dala, any thoughts on the forwards there?
I think just sort of go back a few steps to your point, Couch, about taking Elstad. I'm also in the camp of I think that'll be a bit of overkill, because I think that's basically 6 locks / hybrid blindside flanks that we're taking, and I think it's a bit unnecessary to take Elstad when Franco Mostert can do, I think, just as good, probably a better job than he does. Not that Ulster played badly. I think maybe as someone, he's maybe a little bit on the older side, but he's, if we have an injury to Pieter-Steph du Toit, he's only a flight from Toulouse away. So it's actually a little bit of a shorter flight then from Johannesburg at least. But he's obviously someone that can fill that Pieter-Steph role, but Mostert does that already playing 5. So I would be much more happier than putting Mostert at 6 and putting Lotte Joch at 5. So I basically see it as there's, I think there's about 4 people in the 32-man squad that maybe aren't 1,000% in the squad. That would be then Warwick Geland, like you mentioned. The second would be Reinhard Alstad because of the sort of the amount of options we have at lock and at blindside flank. Third would be Kwagga Smith. And the fourth might be Lotte Joch, where Rassie takes 3 locks. Pieter-Steph covers as the 4th option lock, and then Alstad plays 7, which I think from Jacques shaking his head seems unlikely. I would personally not keep Lotte at home. I think he's probably still one of the top 10 or top 12 best locks in the world, and he's our 3rd, 4th choice lock. So that's just ridiculous there. So I think if it was up to me, I think Alstad would be the one packing his bags, unfortunately. Not because he hasn't taken his chance, not because there's anything deficient about him. I think he played quite well actually in Argentina. It did show some improvement from the Australia game. But I think Mostert can do a little bit more as the blindside cover. As we've talked about, Kolisi and Flo and Vermeulen can play the blindside flank role as well. Between Dwayne and Flo and Kwagga, we can get an 8 as well. So between those 5 loose forward options, we can mix and match a little bit to have the right combinations for each game. Another quick point I want to make is I'm a little bit surprised that Kolisi wasn't also released to play a little bit of Currie Cup rugby just to get a bit of game time. And obviously on the understanding that he is part of the squad and maybe he's released on the Thursday evening and then just pops into Dobson's team, plays and comes back type of situation. So he will be a little bit underdone, a little bit like Sushi, I guess. Will be a little bit underdone when he comes to Japan. So that would be a little bit of a concern. So I'm assuming when I was on Twitter now, I was just saying that basically Kolisi will be someone I'd probably play for, if not all of the pool matches starting, maybe most of them starting and one of them on the bench. And then between the other 4 options, it's just a mix and match. Dwayne, as a senior citizen, can maybe play less games. We just try to make the combinations work. And if there is a emergency situation, Franco Mostert at 6, blindside at 7 in South Africa, I'd be more than happy with that.
I think also just the way Kolisi came back to action in both the province game and the Bok game. I think that's pretty much shown Rassie that he just doesn't have the chance, of another run out. I think he pretty much hit the ground running. He was present and he was pretty big, and I think that was quite a good performance. And on that part, he probably just erred on the side of caution and said, "Listen, I'm wrapping you up. We're not even going to take a chance." He doesn't want to have such a integral part of the squad, just missing out. So that's I think you can understand it. And as you guys said, I think if he does go for the Kwagga option instead of the Alstad option, he gives some chances to rest some guys, during those week games, if you want to call it those pool games to get through. Because as we said, Kwagga can go and play 6 in the one game that you're resting Kolisi. He can play 8 in the one game that you're resting Dwayne. So that, to me, it gives you some options to rest some of those guys, which is probably a little bit more than if you go for Alstad. But I do hear the argument. Probably if we fair, the lock option would have been the best one to leave an extra guy, because as you said, we could have Pieter-Steph in any case slotting in there, or if we do go then for the Alstad option, he could go slot in there. So actually, if you're 100% firm about it, to me, the one place that you should actually be leaving a guy is at lock. Taking 4 locks plus Alstad and Pieter-Steph du Toit. That's overkill in terms of who can play lock. And it's not like you're going to need 4 world-class locks. You need 3, and you can fly in the 4th, because you can still cover starting lineup and a bench position. So it's not like someone has to sit on the bench who you don't want to. So for me, we're taking Loot because he's great. but not because he's going to be playing a lot of rugby. He's going to be playing some pool games, and you don't want to be the guy who leaves Lewitt behind. But I mean, I'm starting with Elstad and Mostert, and I'm having Ergie on the bench. There's just no two ways about it for me. So, why have Lewitt hanging around there for the pool games when you could have had Elstad just play one game at lock for a pool game to rest some of the guys if you want, or Peter Steff one at lock and then sit out the game not playing flank. So to me that was a little bit, I would have gone there, but Rassi's made it clear he's sticking to his 4 locks and so be it. So that's the case. Guys, just one of the questions that came through. We've seen the squad now, we've made our comments. Anything in terms of either Rassi's strategy and what we've seen from the other guys? We'll talk about the other squads now, but just, is there what is the weakness? What is the one area that you guys are concerned about with the Boks going to the World Cup? We've all said, great, they've won the Rugby Championships. We all chuffed. Everyone's on a high. I've actually just looked at the betting today, and the Boks are now 9-2, second favourites going to the World Cup, where we were like 9-1 a month ago. So, everyone's tipping us. Is there anything? What are the weaknesses you see, or a weakness of this Boks squad in a month's time? Jacques, let's start with you.
Well, throw me under the bus. Well, it's hard to say what's the weakness. Are we name calling here now?
Maybe just say, like, in positions. You don't have to necessarily say, listen, I don't trust Elstad as 7. Just say you think you've got an issue as 7 backup, or personally, if I can say it, I think one of our only weaknesses is depth in key positions, in terms of Rassie has nailed these colours to the mast quite clearly on, let's say, Dwayne Vermeulen is my number 8. If Dwayne Vermeulen, something happens to Dwayne Vermeulen, I think our whole setup and our whole strategy changes, because having a Francois Lowe at 8 is different. He's not a big ball carrier. Yes, he does the fetching job, but that's going to change. Elstad can't play 8. Quagga, that changes the whole dynamic if you have a Quagga. So to me, that is the one area of concern I have, is that Rassie saw of the short term, listen, I can't go for a blanket approach or net approach. He pretty much went with harpoon and he nailed down what he wanted. But that does leave us a little bit short in 1 or 2 key positions if something does happen.
Yeah, now that you I do agree with the points there. Look, I don't know, for me, I still feel Mapimpi is a bit of a weak link. In the 2 games that he started, there were 2 tries scored against him. So, the first try against Argentina, when we were playing in Argentina, that first try that was scored, it was against him. So that's my only concern with him. It's not a major thing. It's something that they can work on. His other assets make up for it. But at the end of the day, when you're going to come to a World Cup final, then defense is key. Yes, you have to score, but defense is even more key at the end of the day. So but I know we've discussed that part. I'm not a big fan of Frans Malherbe. I don't know how he ever became a rugby player, never mind a Bok. Sorry, I'm being brutally honest. I know there's a lot of people that agree with me, and like everything else, we're allowed to agree or disagree about whatever. But I don't really, across the board, I think Rassie has created so much depth, and I think the biggest thing that he's created amongst the players themselves is actually self-belief. And I think we all know, we're all supporting a great sport here, and I think we all know once a team or once players start believing in themselves, then the impossible becomes possible. And this is what this team, for me, it stands out the most, is that this team is suddenly in a place where they actually believe in themselves and that they can actually do something that a lot of people a year ago did not even consider would be even possible. And it's funny to see how the social landscape has changed, meaning, Twitter and all those fancy places where we all hang out, how people, we can all agree that the majority of people are in a positive mood for the Springboks. My only thing, I must be honest, I was thinking about this the other day, are we actually getting so positive that if something does go wrong, and sorry for saying that, but I'm just being realistic, how bad is the shock going to be? You know, are we going to be able to handle it? Because I think we believe in the box in such a way. I don't remember when last we actually had so much faith in this team of actually getting, you know, all the way. So, yeah, that's my 5 cents in that regard. I really, everybody.
Cappy, you don't have to worry. You know, anyone who's supported the Proteas over the years, we know how to handle disappointment. So don't worry. The nation can handle anything. Tala, anything else you see as possible
But
weaknesses?
we know that the Boks normally get further than the Proteas, so you know that's why I think the disappointment will be very bad.
Yeah, I think in terms of weaknesses, I think it's sort of same as what you mentioned, Couch. Like the second options in each position, we in a position where now we're all chips in for certain players, especially for people like De Klerk, Leroux, for Mulums. Like most of the spine of the squad is people that we've backed 100%, which I think, look, when Rassie took this job, that was basically the only option he had if he wanted to realistically win the World Cup. Give the combinations from 1 to 50 as much caps as possible, get them play together a lot more, and if they have that cohesion, then we can make our 23 or 15 as competitive as anyone else's, which is what has happened. But also the nice thing is that because we've been winning the past few games and the vibe is sort of back in the squad, it makes it a lot easier for Alton Yankees to come into a squad where the ball is moving forward. So we have a good pack and everyone's moving forward. It makes it easier for Herschel Yankees to come in as a second choice 9 if Faf de Klerk is injured. It makes it easier for Flo to come into 8. So it's a little bit like, I mean, if we talk about New Zealand, for example, that's where they're having a bit of issues now. That now that their team isn't dominating, it's not easy now for like the second option or the third option to come into the team. I think we'll probably talk about it in a few moments. I mean, they've had a lot of problems with just experimenting stuff where a year or two ago, it would be much easier for them to just put in Moonga in their team and put Brad 15 and they still put 40 points on any side in the world. So it makes a lot of difference when the momentum is with the team and the team is winning and they know how to win close games. I think, the other point is not really a concern about the team itself. It's more just in general. We haven't really, because the coaches come in late and because we've had 5 sort of rough years before Erasmus came in, we haven't won too many close games in terms of just, being able to pull off a win from a loss type of situation than other teams have had. I mean, Ireland has built up that resilience of, even if it's 10 minutes left, we find we can keep a lead or we can just sneak a drop goal over from Johnny Sexton. Wales has done that. England to an extent. New Zealand obviously has about 12 years of doing that now. So that's the sort of the issue, that when it does get tight, we are maybe a little bit lacking on that just match experience as a team of, there's 10 minutes to go. It's a quarterfinal against Ireland and they're 2 points ahead or we 2 points ahead. Are we able to not concede that penalty? Are we able to not let a drop goal in or whatever the situation is? And I think that's, I mean, if you can see from most World Cup winning teams, that's the one thing that separates them. Is that they're able to win that close match. And if you count the New Zealand game as a win in inverted commas, that's probably the first time we've put in 3 wins in a row against the top 10 team since the France series in 2017, which doesn't really count because France was absolutely trash. So it's been a while since we've been able to put in 3 good wins in a row against one of the other Six Nations or the Rugby Championship competitors. So, but this is a close World Cup World Cup series, I think, coming up. I think you can make an argument for 6 teams. I was watching France over the weekend against Scotland. They are actually looking good. That's a bit scary. It looks like France will fluke their way into a semi-final again. Argentina, I wouldn't count them out. They've just selected their 31-man squad, and there's still enough good players there to make a shout. So I think the Springboks, I wouldn't be too disappointed if the Springboks lose a quarterfinal to Ireland. I mean, I think that's one of those, one team could win on one day, the other team could win another day. I mean, if we get Scotland or Japan in the quarterfinal and we lose to those teams, that's I think a failure.
Okay, I think I must say I think that's probably a very good call. I think maybe game management is one area that I think Brent mentioned it as well. I also think Six Nations guys often almost get a little bit more exposure in that. It's almost like week out. They've got to grind out till the 80th minute to try and get a result. Where in our games, it's often the result is almost in the bag by 60 minutes. I mean, I know we showed some good character there against New Zealand, but often to me it's about when do you up the speed of the game and when do you stall the speed of the game, dictating it in terms of what you need and when you need it. And to me, that's what the really, good teams do. They know when to up their pace and when to take it easy and when to go into different modes to try and manage a game according to either whether they're behind or they're managing a lead. And to me, that's the one area where Northern Hemisphere guys, they get quite a lot of exposure to it, and that's probably where a guy like Brent is feeling that because their skills have also come on now that they're real contenders for this World Cup, because when it's tight and you need to do what you need to do to win a game. I mean, a good example is the drop goals. I'm pretty sure if you look at stats, the Northern Hemisphere do a lot more drop goals than we do. And that's about, sealing that close win and getting the threes because they know the value of the 3 points. Where, I mean, even in rugby championships, we often kicking for corners, any team, either one of the teams, where that might be a little bit different, come World Cup time. It's almost like they play World Cup style a little bit more than we do. So that might be actually a pretty good point there. Then since we've already basically gone on to it, maybe let's get the other 3 rugby championship teams. And then just a little bit, pros and cons of each and what we think they could be doing in the World Cup. Probably best performance or best possible performance they could reach, and what you expect them to be able to do. Let's start with Argentina and Tala, and then Jock after that, and then we go on to the rest.
Argentina just announced their squad. I'm actually looking through it now quickly. So Issa didn't make the squad, which is, I think, a big shock. And they didn't pick someone like Santiago Cordero, the wing fullback, which I think is, I mean, they have great options there. But, I wouldn't maybe, I would try to go someone like Cordero to the World Cup. So clearly Ledesma has a plan. He's prioritized the players that have played for the Jaguares. So maybe he just wants a bit of that squad unity. I think there's only like 3 or 4. It's basically Sanchez and Leguizamon, who's about probably 68 now. So it's gonna be I think the big problem for Argentina is that they're in a very tough group. So they're with England, they're with France, and as I've said just now, France looks like they're going to be cooking again just in time for the World Cup, and France are going to do France things. But I'm still going to think about it, but at the moment, I'm not. It's going to be difficult to see Argentina get through their group. I don't know. Like, I want them to go through. I would love the South to dominate. I would love all 4 of the Southern Hemisphere teams to be in the semi-final. But Argentina are in the most difficult spot, and then they have a likely quarterfinal against either Australia, who they can beat, or a Wales team that's obviously quite high in confidence. That's just stopped their streak of 14 matches in a row and is the new number 1 team in the world. So they have a very difficult route to the semi-final. Do you want me to say a piece about the other teams, or
maybe let's go on to Cappy on Argentina, and then we'll come rotate back.
I've been fairly vocal the last 2 or so weeks about my feelings towards the Argentines, and I honestly don't see them making it out of the group stage. And I think seeing France play this weekend, so far my prediction in that regard, I'm feeling even more confident. And I think we all know, France is that they like, okay, besides for this year's Cricket World Cup, they like the Sri Lanka of, World Cups. They arrive at the World Cup and the rest of the other 4, or 3 years, they know where to be seen. And I mean, what we saw on Saturday, Cheapers, that was pretty special. So, putting their hand up there and I think making a fair statement. I honestly, I don't see. I haven't seen the squad being released, but from what Tala's just told us now, clearly they've made some surprise selections. My one concern, which I think is basically going to be the downfall of Argentina, is the fact that they've been playing as the Jaguares the most of the year, which is now obviously carried over into the Argentina team. And to me, it's a matter of they've been playing way too much rugby. They are reaching a point. You could see it actually on Saturday in the Loftus game. There's a lot of them there that are dead on their feet. And what are they going to be like in a month's time? I honestly don't see them getting suddenly overnight, better. They are just going to get worse as time wears on. It's just they are human beings. And I think they've played too much rugby this year as a group. And that's just, unfortunately, I think, going to be part of their downfall. I don't see them making it out of the group stage at all.
Tala, just quickly back to you.
Yeah, I just want to also mention quickly that obviously their forwards and their scrum has been very, very shocking. So they've been bullied by every team, and obviously England and France are well known for their scrummaging and will give them a hard time there. So if I'm Eddie Jones, I don't know who even is a French coach these days, but that's the one place I would focus on and would just punish them the whole time there. So it's almost the worst case scenario for them. Like if they were maybe with one of the other Southern Hemisphere teams in their pool, maybe Australia, even Ireland, I think they might have been a chance because Ireland doesn't have the best 8 in the world in terms of the scrummaging. But yeah, it's like, look, I think Yellow Cap is definitely right. I think it's looking very, very tough for Argentina making it out of their group.
No, I must say I was pretty bullish on them halfway through Super Rugby. I thought, geez, these guys have an unfair advantage. They have played together. They're dominating everything at Super Rugby. They're not going to make a lot of changes to this team. It's it's going to be seamless. Ledesma's been part of the setup, so it's not like he's completely new coming in there. And the only weakness they had was a little bit at scrum time, and he's a prop, so he's going to get a few internationals there back, and that's going to sort out their one weakness, and they're going to be brilliant. And I'm trying to trade out of my bets at the moment because I'm not fancying them to beat France in that opener. After this game as well, France have always, or definitely of late, had a very good pack, and then it was just a case of picking the right guys and having them up mentally to play a decent game. And I actually think Japan could suit them, to play a little bit of a more freer, open game. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of expectation on France, and that could actually be a little bit dangerous. So I'm with you guys. I think it's going to be very tough if they somehow, by some hook or by crook, manage to beat France. And we all know that can happen on an off day for the French. As Tola said, I mean, they're just going to jack straight bang into probably Wales. I fancy it to be Wales. And Wales will just absolutely block them off. They're a technical team. They'll have every weakness of you sorted out, and they'll definitely just make sure they get the job done. So it's either group stage exit or quarterfinals for me. I don't see them having a chance of going any further. Jock, then I'll start you. My favorite team, the Aussies.
My favorite team. Look, yes, I'll tell you, the last 2 weeks is enough to confuse any decent wannabe rugby pundit.
I was just gonna say, Jock, like, how much do you take out of let's say, I don't know, both weeks, but how much do you take out of the Aussie game? Was that a resurgence of Australian rugby? Was the case of, listen, when we're at our best, we can play. We genuine contenders. Everyone's been saying it everywhere I look. Australia peak in World Cup years. Are these Australians runners? Are they realistic contenders for the trophy, for the William Webb Ellis?
I think they're going to make the quarters in the pool that they are in. I mean, that would be probably the shock of the tournament if they don't make it. It won't be such a big shock if Argentina doesn't make it. But if Australia doesn't get out of their pool, that would definitely be, in my opinion, one of the upsets of the World Cup. But looking at that first Bledisloe Cup game, I mean, they played well. There's no denying it. But I think there was a few factors from an All Black point of view that also came, to the fore. The whole experiment with Moanga and Bowden Barrett. I don't think, they won this weekend. I'm still not convinced it's the right time yet. Why would you sacrifice Ben Smith, who's probably one of the best fullbacks in the world, and at the same time also sort of sacrificing the best fly-off in the world? So I don't think if that experiment has worked yet. Moanga's time will come, definitely. There's no doubt about it. I just think it's a bit too early in his career, and unfortunately it's a World Cup year, so obviously they were going to test stuff like that. I was quite shocked that they kept on with that for 3 weeks, and I mean finally it did pay off for them. But I still believe that an All Black team from a year ago would have put probably close to 50 on this weekend's match. So I don't think that 36-0 should be. I know there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, the All Blacks are back." Yeah, are they back? They made a bit of a statement. I think there's a lot of flaws still that are appearing, and I think there's a lot of flaws that are going to appear even more. But coming back to the Aussie team, I listened to an interview with Michael Shaker post-match from this weekend, and it sounds like the guys, they definitely have a plan, and their plan is definitely not, they want to be in the finals, and they are building towards something. So this loss on the weekend, they've actually taken it on the chin, and it was a bit of a muchness. I think they are very much aware that the All Blacks, 17 years or so now that I think this is now the 18th year that they kept the Bledisloe Cup. So at the end of the day, it's sort of, I'm a South African, so it probably doesn't matter so much to me, but I almost got the impression that it was a bit of it's a World Cup year, it's much of a muchness. You know what? There's bigger things to aspire to at this stage, where I know the All Blacks kind of look at it differently. The Bledisloe Cup is like everything to them in the world. So yeah, everybody's got a different outlook, but I think I don't think we should.
Jock, you never take your foot off for Aussie's head, though.
No, you don't. But let me tell you something. 4 years ago, the Aussies proved it again. I think a lot of people wrote them off, and look where they ended up. They were in the final. So, but I don't know if they're going to make it this time round. Not with us there.
Tala, where are you heading?
So Australia's with Wales and Fiji in their group, and Georgia. Yeah, I think, and Georgia in the same group. So look, Fiji. I wouldn't want to be that team that plays against Fiji. I think Fiji is that one sort of third place team in a group that could really cause some issues. So look, Australia. I think. We've seen enough bad days from Australia in the last 2-3 years. I think they could really get beaten by Fiji if they are not on top of their game. But I do think they would probably make it out of their group. The big then match would be, will they beat Wales? And Australia does have, I think 12 of the last 13 wins, although Wales won the most recent one. So I think Australia might probably edge Wales. But then the quarterfinals a bit of a either or, because you either face England or France or Argentina, who are, maybe England is stronger. I'll give England that. But I think France and Argentina, whoever you face there, I think that's a match Australia would prefer. So I think there is a bit of a prize to winning the group, assuming England wins their group, to face one of those two teams. And then the semi-final would be the winner of our pool, basically, if everything goes to plan. So then that'll be either the Springboks if they win their match or the All Blacks. And I think Australia has one big match in them. One match where they're going to give someone a nice clap. So either it's Wales in the pool game, or maybe it's either England or France, Argentina in the quarterfinals. So I think that's what they've proved the last 2 weeks, that they have one big game in them. David Pocock should be back for the World Cup, it looks like. And I think he makes a big difference, because that Salakai Loto guy at 6, he's not effective. Like, you can make an argument for the number 8, Nasavari, he plays well. Hooper, I said on the weekend, I haven't seen a good Hooper performance in a long time. But I think Pocock could make a very big difference there. So you have Pocock there. They have a very dangerous back line. James O'Connor, I think, like I said last week, I think could make a bit of a difference. So I think there's one big game in there. Right now, I'd maybe say semi-finalists. Maybe.
No, I was gonna say I think best case scenario for Australia, they put up a fight, they beat Wales, and then they lose to either the Boxer or New Zealand in the semi-final. Very worst case scenario, they lose to Fiji and don't make it past the group, and that would be horrible for them. And pretty much where I think it's going to happen is finish second to Wales in the pool, hit England in the quarters, and pack your bags. I think that's pretty much what's going to happen. I do agree with Tyler, though. I think the one thing that the Rugby Championships did show is that they pretty much like France. On the day, you don't want to be squaring off against them. You might be ranked 5 log positions above them, but they're the one team that could beat you on the day. But I don't think they can topple three big guys to win a trophy. So to me, again, they non-runners, and I think they'll do superbly well to get to the final. And I don't see it happening against other squads who, to me, the Australians just they've got individual brilliance at the back, but they just can't seem to almost stitch it all together into a solid team effort. And they just don't have a pack for me. If you look at the top guys, you look at Ireland, England, South Africa, New Zealand, Wales, they've got packs of forwards that dominate and win games and can strategically put the team where they want to be. And even defensively, I don't think the Australians are just organized enough to make it happen. Guys, then lastly, it's onto the All Blacks again. It's pretty much the same question. We've seen them lagging a bit. We've seen them struggling, and then we've seen everyone looking around and saying, but don't worry, this is the All Blacks. There's no use showing your hand beforehand. They're going to peak at the World Cup. We saw them pretty much pull out a little bit of their bark this past weekend. Do you think it was, as Jock said, maybe a past team could have put 50 on them, or you can't take it away from them. It was a good hiding. They kept Aussies to naught. Was this the first the prelim of what we're going to see at the World Cup, them just going further from strength to strength, Tala, or there's still some serious questions that they need to answer?
I think both. So I think, look, New Zealand showed that I think if you're having a close game and there's 10 minutes left and it's 7 points either way, I would still rank New Zealand as the most likely team to win in that game. I think it's just they've got almost 11, 12 years of capital in their players and in their coaches to be able to strategize a way to win a close match. And that's what World Cup games end up being. Close matches, you need a try, you need a drop goal, you need a penalty, and New Zealand can engineer those. So I think it's one of those, they're almost like the Manchester United of like the 2000s, where you have Ferguson there, you have Rooney there, you have Ronaldo there. One of them is going to make a plan of getting that goal or getting that stop at the end. There are still a lot of questions, I think. And I think this weekend confuses everything a little bit. Because now Reece and Bridge had great games, very, very good games. And Ben Smith looks like he'll fall the same fate that Muliaina and Dag had in the last 2 World Cups of being the incumbent 15, having a lot of caps and seeing yourself on the bench. So, which I think if it's managed well, I don't think that's the worst thing. If you start with Reece and Bridge and you have Ben Smith coming on, Rico Ioane looks like he's been released by the All Blacks to go play some ITM Cup. So he's gone literally from the best wing in the world to he might not be in the World Cup squad in the matter of weeks. So that's actually very surprising. They have a big problem at 6. Still, I think the Xavier Kane Reid loose chair only works against a smaller team like Australia in terms of like size and like physical sort of physicality. I don't think you should play Xavier at 6 against Peter Steph, Dwayne, and Kolisi. So I still am a believer in the Scott Barrett at 6 solution. But you know what? I think where New Zealand lands is they showed this weekend that they can still pull out a performance, and they're the one team that I'd be like pretty confident in them pulling out 3 big performances in a row. And maybe it's good in a way that they got those losses out early, but there is a clear game plan on how to beat them. Ireland and the Springboks and the other teams have showed that if you can pressure them on defense and get the rush going, if you can, at the very least, not let them dominate you up front, pressure them on in the set pieces, pressure in the rucks and mauls, then you have a very good chance of beating them, because then it's very difficult for their magic players to create those tries from everywhere. And a good kicking game as well.
Yeah, I mean that's spot on, as you said there. I mean, that's just what you get from New Zealand is that they are the one team that can get the jump three games in a row, almost the opposite of the Aussies, and perhaps the one question mark about the Boks. They're not going to shy away from a challenge. They can get themselves up every single time, and as you said, we know they can dominate. I mean, they've known for those big minutes. The minutes just before and after half time, the last 10-15 minutes in a game. That's what they're notorious for, and there's definitely no one that can bark up that bush. They're pretty much unique in that. Jacques, something you want to add on New Zealand's strengths and weaknesses, and how do you see them going?
Yeah, I think I've touched on it a little bit just now, but yeah, I'm also, I think you mentioned it just now as well, that not 100% convinced that they settled yet, but yeah, I won't put my house on them winning the World Cup. If I can, if I was a betting man in that regard. I mean, I don't. I think people will have to think very closely about it. When they get to that point. At the end of the day, yeah, it will be. I think there's only one final at this stage that I think a lot of people want to see, and it's got to be an All Black Bok final. And the way things have been going the last 2 years, it's almost set up to be that way. Whether we'll get it, I don't know. But just I'm not convinced about the All Blacks. I think the cracks have been showing for the last few years. It's starting to slowly but surely come out. It's getting bigger and bigger. And the World Cup is going to be the time to shine if you want to make a mark and you're playing the All Blacks. You're going to have to front up first of all. And remember, there's still that whole thing about Brodie Retallick. They're missing him a lot. They did well on the weekend, but at the end of the day, they played Australia. So, they've got another hurdle in front of them, which is called South Africa, the Springboks. And Australia isn't going to be the team that they're going to be facing. Maybe, like you guys said, at best in the semi-finals. But, yeah, semi-final doesn't win you the World Cup.
I must say, I think actually we could be in a pretty important first game. A lot of people will say that it's only a first game, but I think if the All Blacks get through that game against the Boks, and they're probably gonna get a few guys almost back into the squad, you're gonna get a Scott Barrett and a Brodie Retallick probably returning during that and settling into the team, and then they've got a few easier games to really start lining themselves up and getting that steamroller going. And I think the other big thing is they're in the pool, and Brent mentioned it as well, I see in the comments, is that they're in that pool where it's the tougher game in terms of your direct opponent, but after that it's easier. So that the winner there gets almost the best reward. If you look at the quarterfinals there, I think playing Scotland or even possibly Japan is definitely for me the easier quarterfinal. So that's the only place where you've got a tougher pool game where you really don't know, maybe Australia and Wales, but we really don't know who's gonna win the game. And then obviously the group of death with England and France and Argentina. But in this case, you've got a tough game where you play, almost 1 and 2 in the world, basically, in terms of strength and form lately. But then after that, you got an easier quarterfinal. So I think it's pretty crucial that big game, and that's going to be crucial. If the All Blacks get that, they're playing in Japan. I think some people are underestimating the fan base New Zealand are going to have in Japan. I think they're going to be big in Japan. It's going to be absolutely huge. They're going to have a huge following in that first game, and there's some stars like Ardie Savia who those oaks are going to absolutely hero worship. And if they get on that roll and they get that almost that little bit, because what we've seen the last 12 to 18 months is that invincibility. These giants have just been brought down. They're still favourites, as we've all said, but they're at the same level as us. They're now just ahead of being being on a whole different level, and that's the big thing. And also different to other years are these questions. We haven't seen an All Black coach going in with this many issues as Paula said, well, who's going to be the sixth? It worked this week, it didn't work the previous week, so is he going to settle on that? I'd also prefer a Scott Barrett that's there but he can't really test that setup now because of the situation. So those are a few questions. He's strangely enough, he's brought in Mo'unga this season. It's strange to see him take a chance like that just in World Cup and in the lead up, and it's almost like he's decided now that Mo'unga is going to be starting 10. He wants the dual playmaker role, which obviously Damien McKenzie gave him off the bench, but it's strange that he hasn't gone just with playing Mo'unga off the bench and saying, okay, listen, this is where I'm going to go. And I like Ben Smith to anchor fullback, especially in a World Cup situation. He's been there, he's done that. But again, as Dollar said, maybe he's got a plan of him to come off the bench and just almost manage things. So that's to me, it's there are a few question marks, but as you guys also said, they're pretty much the team that's they've been there, they've done it all. They're not going to be afraid of what's waiting for them. So it's still going to be tough beating the All Blacks. So we've all said they're just human, but they're still a bloody strong human. So it's going to be everyone's at the top of the game to have to beat them. Brent, any last input there from you? Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I've enjoyed the show. I mean, I think for me, this Rugby World Cup is just too tight to call. I've gone from a year ago fancying Ireland very strongly to win it. I then fancied England. I mean, you can't write off the All Blacks. South Africa, I mean, 2 years ago, even 6 months ago, never gave us a chance. Now we're big runners. I mean, Jacques mentioning the dream final, I guess, for Southern Hemisphere sides, South Africa against New Zealand. I see that's 3-1 in the betting, so it is the favourite. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see an all Northern Hemisphere final as well. That's the type of World Cup this is. And you touched on it now, Couch. I mean, I think the Scotland quarterfinal, let's call it a Scotland quarterfinal, they most likely will finish second in that group, is probably the only one that you'd say has a degree of softness to it. And I really do say a degree because, let's face it, Scotland on their day are also a much improved side and can give any side a scare. So it's really a case of whether you finish first or second in your group is maybe not such a big disadvantage or advantage as it hasn't been in past years. And for me, look, that opening game is going to be critical in terms of momentum. But I'm still sticking to my guns, guys. I think a Northern Hemisphere side's going to win the Rugby World Cup. I think this is going to be an attritional World Cup. I think we're going to see very few points come the quarterfinals. And I just think those Northern Hemisphere sides, they've got the patience to take it through the phases and potentially win it. But yeah, thanks very much. And Couch, thanks for hosting the show. Jacques, it was great to have you on. Pleased you could make it.
Pleasure, man.
Excellent. And Tyler, as always, a pleasure to have you on the show as well. Thanks very much. And we'll chat to both of you guys soon, I'm sure. And Couch, we'll see you on Thursday night for the handicap, where we talk about rugby, of course, from a betting angle. We'll see if we're going to watch Griquas at Tafellager Park.
Oh, I was going to say, I think we might have to have a drinking game, and every time Hendrik mentions Griquas, you're going to have to take a drink.
Excellent. Yeah, looking forward to it. And thanks to the guys who did join us in the live chat. I see we got a few, I guess maybe from Argentina or something, and then now I won't post their comments in case they're obscenities or something like that. But thanks to the guys who contributed to the live chat as well. And thanks a lot, guys. Good having you on the show, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks, guy.
Thanks.